Good afternoon and welcome, Prof. My name is Damilola Victoria Alabi, and I am the Secretary of the MBA Section on Legal Practice TMT Committee. So I'm not the moderator, I'm just the coordinator of the session. I'm sure Rita will be joining shortly and the moderator of the session. Thank you for taking the time to join us on this public holiday. We really appreciate that. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, hi, Rita.
I am,
Damilola.
yes.
Damilola, hi. I must also indicate I told Mr. Onibokun that I'm traveling. I'm not necessarily I'm wearing a jacket with not a tie, and I'm wondering whether that's okay.
Oh, that's so fine.
Because
That's
I,
okay, Prof. That's sufficient.
for this, because
That's
I
fine. That's fine with us.
yeah,
Thank you. Okay, Mr.
I just
Olibokun is
really.
here as well.
Oh, good.
That's
So
sufficient.
that's it. All right. Thank
Good
you.
afternoon and welcome, Prof.
Yeah. Hi. Good afternoon, Madam
Good
Host.
afternoon, sir. Thank you for taking the time to join us, despite your busy schedules.
Yeah.
Most grateful, sir.
Yeah. My pleasure. Pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Good afternoon, Mr. Onibokun. Thank
Good
you for
afternoon.
being here. I'm sure Rita is going to join shortly. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you, ma'am.
So I don't know if there's any question for me as regards the coordination of the session. If there's any clarification you need, Prof. or Mr. Onibokun, any clarification on anything, so that once it's 2 p.m., we just get going.
Okay. I understand that you make an introduction.
Yes, in the absence of the section chair, I will just welcome participants to the session, and that will be it. And then I'll yield the floor to you so that you can go ahead with the moderation of the event.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't think I have any questions.
Okay, thank you, Prof.
Yeah, so just a quick one, moderator. We start at 2. How long will the session go on for?
Averagely, it goes on for about an hour, 30 minutes.
Okay.
We always leave about, say, 15, 20 minutes for questions at the end of the day.
Okay. Okay, so our discussions may take us to about 3 or 3:10, and then maybe questions till 3:30. All right, just to help me. All
Just to
right, no
give you
problem.
an idea. Yes, sir, I
Yeah,
think so, sir. I believe we don't have too many questions to go through.
yeah.
And yes, it should take us to about 3:30. But maximum, I would say 4 at the latest, depending on the kind of engagement we get from the questions.
People. Okay. All right. All right. So that at least I can plan for the other meetings. Well done. Well done. But
Thank you, sir.
you have not. I mean, you are not a cultural. Maybe that's why you're wearing a native. I say, are you a cultural person yourself?
I'm a cultural person, so, and I think the cap is even most apt for this discussion today. Yes, I am. You know,
Yeah,
and sir, yes, sir, please go on, sir.
no, I just seen your posts.
Oh, okay.
Because if I mean, I would have I don't know whether it is still be possible. Maybe I'll write her, the Minister of Trade, and some of those people that maybe it would have been good to meet with the museum. I'm not sure they will. Let me send a message to her. I don't know whether they will. You know.
I I think there's a lot of things that we can do in that regard, sir, especially concerning further discussions after today,
Mm.
sir.
You know, the problem of some of those things for people like me is you don't want to throw yourself at people. I'm not a politician, and I don't really have for politicians. Um, but um, talking to them, and if they will allow you to bring your expertise or skills or connections to bear, So I'm just sending a message to the minister now, for instance. I mean, that if she's here, I mean, I just arrived here. I mean, it could have been, oh, who is asking? This thing is typing what I did in my speech.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
So you got,
I believe she's actually there, sir.
I know she's in London. What I'm saying that
Yeah.
I'm asking whether she'll be meeting. Are you meeting with the museum? Yeah,
Oh, okay.
British
On the
Museum.
subject matter, that would be
Oh
great, sir.
yeah, oh yeah.
That would be great, sir. I want to believe it will be on a list of things to discuss. Naturally, I want to believe that when the ministry was putting together topics that they feel are germane, this should be one of them.
I mean, I got to know late, and because there's some things which one may have approached them before, and they just don't give, they don't listen, so to say. Um, I would have tried to arrange. So I'm just sending a message on one or two issues that I could help push British Film Academy for joint production, co-production treaty. Yeah, let's see. Because most things are treated as contracts. And if you are not a good contractor, you may not be able to do some things.
Good afternoon, Prof. Good afternoon, Adejumade.
Yeah, hi, Madam Rita. How are you?
Uh,
Madam Chinda.
Adejumade, there's someone in the waiting room. When are we starting so that we'll know when we'll start admitting people in?
Hi Rita, good afternoon. We are starting at 2. So we only admit people when it's 2 p.m. So by 2 p.m. we can admit everyone in the waiting room.
All right, thank you.
Would you be able to admit all of them if you're waiting till 2?
Yes, we will.
Okay.
Okay, so it's 2 p.m. I'm admitting everyone in the waiting room on the call. So Rita, please can just keep an eye on the waiting room. The section chair is likely to join us, Mrs. Folashade Ali SAN. So whenever she's online, I'll just let you know. But in the meantime, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another MBA Slp Tmt Webinar Series. Today's session is hosted by our Media and Entertainment Subcommittee, and we are glad that you took the time to join us. Thank you. Today we have the very erudite Professor Bankole Sodipo SAN, who will be our speaker for today. I am not the moderator. I am simply welcoming you. Yes, okay, the section chair is here. I'm simply welcoming you on the call. The moderator is Mr. Adedumade Onibokun, and he will be moderating today's session. But before we go ahead, okay, I'm enabling the section chair. She's a co-host now, and she'll just give us very short welcome remarks before the session commences. As soon as she's done, Mr. Onibokun can take over, and then the section can proceed from there. Thank you, everyone. Welcome, Leonard.
Good afternoon, everyone. My sincere apologies. I can't put on my video. I actually was trying to rush to get home, so I'm in the car driving. I apologize. This is just to thank everyone for joining our weekly edition by the Telecommunications Media and Telecommunications Committee of the MBA section on legal practice. This time it's been held by the Media and Entertainment Subcommittee. Thank you so much. You know, when I looked at the topic, cultural heritage and repatriation in Nigeria, and I saw the eminent speakers that we have today, my learned brother Silk, Mr. Bankole, Professor Bankole Sodipo, Senior Advocate of Nigeria. Thank you so much for creating time out of your busy schedule to be with us. Mr. Adedumade Onibokun, I really appreciate you for always being there for us, being the able moderator. And Rita, merci beaucoup. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And to our able Marcos Fernandez Obiane, I can't thank you enough for all that you do to continue to ensure that every lawyer in Nigeria is aware of the various areas in which we can improve ourselves to become more enshrined in the practice of law, and also to realize the challenges and the areas in which we can improve ourselves. So thank you all for joining this learning session again this afternoon. I do hope that we will all gain. I'm looking forward to hearing from our speakers in terms of what we need to know about our cultural heritage, repatriation, and I will just hand over. But before you do, for those that have not registered for our upcoming conference, the MBA section on legal practice, our conference is just 2 weeks away. It's on the 7th, from the 7th to the 10th of April, 2024 at the iconic National Theatre. Please do register. We have arrays of activities lined up, from the speakers to the entertainment. We have that we're going to Terra Culture. There's golf. With our keynote speaker is the one and only Adok George, Mr. Femi Elias, Professor Shibajo will be there. I hope you've all registered. And if you are not, if you haven't, you have a week to go. We will not be having on-site registration. Be there. I'm looking forward to welcoming everyone. And thank you all for joining today's session. Without much ado, I'd like to hand over to the moderator. Thank you so much for joining today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ma. It was a pleasure to hear you speak and to know that you're also with us on the Zoom call. Thank you so very much. I hope we have all heard the conference is coming up very soon, in about 2 weeks. If you're ready to register, kindly do. And like the chair has said, there's a lot waiting for us in terms of all the wonderful things that has been put together. Thank you so much, Ma. Yes, so once again, good afternoon to our members. Good afternoon to the participants. On behalf of the NBA SLP, I warmly welcome you to today's session. Our topic today is cultural heritage and repatriation in Nigeria. This topic sits at the intersection of law, identity, history, and justice. It raises fundamental questions. Who owns our cultural heritage? Who tells our stories? And what does it mean to reclaim not just these artifacts, but our identity? A lot of people will agree with me that across the world, there's been a growing movement calling for the return of African artifacts, not just from African countries, but from other countries around the world whose artifacts have been taken unlawfully by one reason or the other. But I would say beyond these calls, there are deeper issues, legal issues, legal frameworks, institutional readiness, preservation capacity, and the role of technology in redefining access and ownership. I'm glad today brings an expert in this area. And a little secret is a lot of people know about the Benin bronzes, but one interesting fact about our speaker today is he was actually involved in the repatriation of some of these bronzes. I've had the opportunity to see them, and I find them very, very beautiful. I find the artistry that has gone into them quite masterly. And I'm just glad that we can have this conversation today. So while we jump right in, I want to start by something that happened to me yesterday. I put out a tweet. A lot of us will know that His Excellency the President is in the UK on a state visit. And I put out a tweet saying that I hoped that this topic, the Benin bronzes and a lot of our cultural artifacts that are in the custody of the British, is one of the topics that will be discussed today. Funny, a gentleman responded to me, and from our engagement, I realized that he did not understand the importance of our cultural heritage. So I'm going to start from there, Professor. When we talk about cultural heritage in Nigeria, please, sir, what exactly are we protecting and why does it matter today?
Good afternoon, my learned brother Silk, Mrs. Folashade Ali. Thank you for all you do and all the members of this committee. Thank you for inviting me. Straight to the question. Cultural property. First, maybe also excuse, I don't have a tie on. I just landed and I rushed in to just get ready for this. I traveled. Now, cultural property. Many civilizations had ways to preserve history, but the technology in yesteryears is not like the kind of technology that we've witnessed in the last 150 years. And so many traditional societies, all over Africa in particular, preserved their history through art. Art was not something that was economical in the sense that you draw a piece of artwork or a sculpture and you sell. No, they were used to tell stories, our own stories. So, for instance, if the president, as he's visiting England, meets with the king's tradesmen who are masonists and so on will capture that in stones, in carvings, in sculptures, and so on. So cultural property played a major role in history. So it helped to preserve history. It helped to tell history. It helped us to identify and know who we are. Sometimes it could have been through, apart from woodwork, bronze work, it could have been through clothes, that would have been woven. And you know that this was what was done at this time, and you tell the story. Cultural property also had significant spiritual undertones. History suggests that some just like maybe the Ark of the Covenant in the biblical days, some cultural works would be brought in during some festivities or during some ceremonies, and they meant things. Some were meant to bring healing. There may not have been very good records as to whether there was healing, but the stories told suggested that those cultural properties did effect some healing. Now, with the advent, I mean, with Christianity, with Islam, and some other things, we've tended to just regard all this carvings, artwork, and so on, woodwork, as things which are only idolatry, but that is not entirely so. And so, if, as happened in most parts of Africa, another civilization, another group of people visit with you and they pilfer, with tricks and cunning, they take away those things that tell your history, that told your stories, then it means that you have lost a significant part of your history. And you may not be able to connect the dots any longer. And if you also check history, you find out that what people have done over the years is during war, they go ahead to kill, raise buildings and so on to the dust, and then they take cultural property away. And when they do this, it's like, oh, they've taken our history. They've taken the foundations of our culture. And it's like they have enslaved us and we have forgotten our history. And that's why it is important to preserve culture. And that's why, I mean, as we go on, maybe we'll talk more about it with your questions. Since World War, Second World War, there have been some treaties that have also been instituted, passed, that deal with things of cultural property, and they preserve and they say, do not take, do not destroy during war and so on. And we'll talk about that later, but let me just stop here. Thank you very much.
Wow, thank you so very much for sharing, sir. That is very interesting. Some of those conventions that you said, they referred to the 1970 convention, the UNESCO convention, the 2003 convention, and also, if I'm right, the 1995 convention. This is very interesting, especially when you talked about acts of war, and it brings me back to something that is currently happening in Sudan at the moment, because the civil war, when it erupted, has led to the destruction of a lot of cultural artifacts and heritage that belong to the Sudanese people. And a lot is being done, even now, by experts in that country to still put together, even if all they can find is a digital collective of everything that they can still reproduce for future generations to learn from. And another example, which comes closer to home, is the issue of the 1897 British expedition in Benin. We lost about 5,000 artifacts during that expedition. Now, a number of them have been returned to Nigeria, but I believe that the UK still holds the largest collection of Benin bronzes today. That now takes me, sir, to my next question. With the increasing global pressure surrounding the return of African artifacts, particularly ours, do you think Nigeria is strategically leveraging this movement and this movement enough to ensure that we get more of our artifacts back? I believe your mic may be muted, sir.
Apologies.
Great.
There is a lot of global pressure that's urging European museums and individual collections and American to return artifacts taken during the colonial era from Africa. And let me use some of the example of the Benin bronzes, because artifacts were taken from different parts of Africa. Different parts of Nigeria. The most significant, like you said, is the Benin bronzes. The interesting thing about the Benin one is the connection. I'm not a Benin man, but my wife is Benin.
Oh, wonderful.
And what happened around 1897 was that the Benin had a festival which was supposed to be just for Benin people, and the British wanted to visit during that time, and the Beninese said, "Do not visit." In fact, my mother-in-law's, I think, grandfather or father, I think grandfather, was part of the Benin chiefs that went to meet with the around 4 or so British guys that wanted to visit. I said, "No, you can't come into this kingdom because we have a festival and we don't entertain foreigners during this." The British felt, "No, we're coming to protect you. We want to sign this." "No, no, you can't come now." And arguments ensued, and some British folks were killed. And then they decided that, "Oh, you've killed our people. We are going to wage war against you." And they brought a big ship and they laid siege, and they removed the king, took him to, I think it was Calabar, and they burnt down the palace, took over 5,000 artifacts, some bronze, some ivory, which at that time, the technology then has been, scholars have agreed that was equal or even better than some of the bronze castings and so on, ivory work that was done in Europe. So it suggested that we had a civilization that equaled or was better in many respects than European civilization. Taking all this away helps that narrative that, no, we were a primitive people, which is not really so. Now, these were taken after the war and distributed to different parts of the world. So you find them in German, French museums, but a lot of them in Britain, in some universities, and then also American museums. And some of the soldiers also took some and distributed to their families. And so I can't immediately recall, I should have noted that the name of one of the families, soldiers' families that took the Benin artifact. They've returned the ones they had. There's a group called Benin Dialogue Group, which were comprised of leading Benin people and princes and Professor Shillon, that were also engaging with museums and so on all over the world. And so a few years back, the students in some students in University of Cambridge, I think it was Jesus College, rioted, saying that the Akuko, one of the artifacts that was in the University of Cambridge, should not be there because it was a symbol of colonialism, should be returned. And so Cambridge wanted to return that, and they got into discussions with the Benin Palace. And I understood that the discussions went on and there was a stalemate. University of Cambridge was established by statute and the statute establishing them had some restraints as to how they would return this. And So I think it was 2020. I was here on sabbatical. I was in England on sabbatical, and I contacted by the University of Aberdeen that also had some cultural property which they identified. This one is from Benin, and so they got in touch with me, and I met then the Minister of Information, Mr. Lai Mohammed, who is also a lawyer, and like, look, there are these problems. Part of the legal issues arising from this is ownership. Does it belong to the Nigerian government? Does it belong to the state government? Does it belong to the Oba's Palace? And so what I did was to set up a committee, which the minister gave me some names, the National Monuments Commission, Museums Commission, the Attorney General of Benin gave me a name, the government of Benin gave me a name, and then so you have federal government represented, you had state government represented, then the Oba's Palace also. And so we started negotiating, and eventually were able to mediate and ensure that University of Benin and Cambridge and University of Aberdeen returned this, but it was a long discussion, which also had some paperwork. And so the question is, are we ready to engage? Who will engage? And do we have the long stretch so that we keep pushing and lobbying? And a number of ideas which we may share as the program goes on, depending on the issues that you raise. Let me stop there. Did you hear me? I hope I'm not freezing.
No, sir. I think he has a network glitch. Let's just give him a second to sort that out. So sorry, sir.
Okay. Well, maybe I should then continue.
Thank you.
So part of what the question you asked is that now that that you raised this question on LinkedIn, whether the Nigerian government would use this opportunity to discuss with the British Museum, it is not clear because I don't know the agenda, all the things they are discussing on this trip. But it is time to take the discussions further. So, for instance, are you back?
I am, sir. Thank you.
Okay, good. So, should I stop there or should I continue?
No, I was actually enjoying what you were saying, sir, and I was paying rapt attention. And I am hoping that you can share more if you like to, sir.
Okay. So now the British government, I mean, the most of the artifacts are held at the British Museum. It has the largest collection anywhere in the world. American museums have said they want to return. European museums have started returning, particularly German museums and French museums. Part of the question will be, who did they return to? The Oba's Palace will, of course, say that, look, these carvings were made by the Oba's Palace, or for the Oba's Palace, by the Inenegun, by the Igun, the people on Igun Street. Now, the intellectual property, the technology then, and the way to preserve it was that only one family was involved in doing that, and they are on Igun Street in Benin. And the head of the family is Inenegun. And I remember interviewing him during my PhD in 1991, there about 92, that said, oh, only members of the family who are initiated to the cult of the family could be involved in the bronze casting. And so some people feel that, no, the bronze belongs to the Igun family. Some people feel it belongs to the Oba's palace. Then could it be the state government? Could it be the federal government? Our constitution lists things of this nature as being a federal issue. But should it be just federal? Those are things we need to sort out ourselves. And the reason why my intervention at that time was successful is because I was able to bring from the federal to the state and the Oba's Palace together on this. And the momentum was lost, although it can be reignited, in the sense that Cambridge started before Aberdeen, but it was stalled. And so I got a call from the warden of Cambridge, and she said, "Oh, I'm the warden. I understand you are doing this with Aberdeen and you've gone so far, but we started before Aberdeen. Aberdeen cannot do it before us." So there was a competition. And so if you read the news and go back, you find out that it was the same week that the two were returned. I mean, Cambridge returned and then Aberdeen. But Cambridge insisted that theirs must be first, earlier than Aberdeen's own. Because, I mean, in terms of age also, these are very old universities. But look, no, we should come before Aberdeen. So that alludes to what you were saying earlier on, that there's a momentum, there's something in the air which Nigeria needs to latch onto. There is a call internationally saying return. And the people may want to return, but they will use excuses. So what were the reasons why Cambridge could not return? Part of it was there's a lot of paperwork. And the Oba's Palace was like, it's our property. Why do we have to start talking to you and all this paperwork? And I explained to them that, look, they are set up by statute. They must do paperwork. But what I'll ask them to do is to reduce the paperwork. And that was done. And we scaled that hurdle. So for the British Museum, what they are saying is that the law prevents them from handing over. And I thought to them, what do you mean? Say, okay, maybe what we'll do is we will digitally copy and then we may hand over. That if we hand over, what's the guarantee that it will not get back to the international markets? If we hand over, what's the guarantee that it will not be lost or broken? Do you have the facility to keep these things as we have preserved them? Why don't you let us preserve them for you, so that you still have them, but we make copies for you? And I said, no, it belongs to us. You need to return them first. Then we can decide what to do. But do we really have the framework? Do we have the facility? The truth is we don't. But then I understand that there was about 100 million that was being raised internationally towards a museum in Benin. The question I told the people doing that is, good, you've got an architect, you've got this, you've got that, you've got people who want to put down the money. But you should realize that this belongs to the Oba's Palace, and so the Oba should have a say. I mean, is it going to have gate takings when people come? What's going to happen? Because if a property is said to be cultural property and is worth £1 million, £1 million for some of them, just one article, £1 million. Wow. Why should the Oba's Palace not say they have the right to gift that to anybody or to sell because they feel it is our own property? Now, should we now have laws to say, well, when they are returned, you cannot sell, you can keep? And what of the ones for Ife carvings and so on? What are the one for Nok? What are the one for the East? Should everything go to those regions, those cities, or should we have them in the federal museums? These are very important issues that we ourselves need to talk about, because you are engaging people, and the people who want to divide and rule and say, no, it's these people I should talk to, I shouldn't talk to. For instance, a British Museum may be saying, it's the Oba's Palace I should be talking to, not President Tinubu when President Tinubu is visiting on the state trip, but the constitution, like I made them realize, indicates that it's a federal thing. And because we had a group from the three people who could have or make some assertions of ownership, the British people could not say no. But one thing we should realize that for Cambridge to say we are returning, for Aberdeen to say we are returning, it's sending signals to the British people because they respect their universities. And those are the things we need to latch on. And of course, what we don't know we have, our creatives, the Bonner Boys, the David O's, the Lagbajas, and then also the authors, book authors. You know, if they add their voice to this, two things can happen. One, whoever the minister is or his cultural secretary who is saying that we're not going to release, the Oyimbos will just let go of that person. They'll throw him or her under the bus, and the person will have to resign. And then we can push that law should be passed, should be changed. Those are things we need to do. And but the question is, who is going to do the push, and who will, keep pressing? Because without continuous pressing, nothing's going to happen. Let me stop there.
Wow. Wow. Thank you so very much, sir. Thank you so very much. In fact, your explanation, even though it was brief, has cut across about 4 or 5 issues that I was hoping we'll talk about today. It has cut across ownership and possession. It has cut across the framework and facilities for taking good care of these artifacts upon their return. It is talked about local laws and the need for us to institute them to protect these artifacts when they come back. And it has also talked about the role of creatives, today's creatives, how important it is for them to add their voices to the call for the return of the bronzes, and not just the Benin bronzes, but other artifacts that have been taken out of Nigeria and belong to other parts of the country. So thank you so much for sharing, sir. That was quite interesting. And I'm happy to learn about what you did to actually make this happen. Sometimes people who go this far are not given their flowers, are not appreciated enough. So I want to use this opportunity to just say thank you. Thank you so much for that. Thank you for all the effort. And seeing, because I saw the one you described as the Akuko, right? I saw it last month amongst about 4 or 5 that were returned. It was on display in Lagos. So remembering how I felt when I saw it and putting that together with your story of how the journey of it returning to Nigeria is, it's just very enlightening for me. Thank you so very much for sharing that. I really appreciate that. And I want to talk about now the legal frameworks, because I think this is very important. During this conversation, you had spoken about the conventions. Are we relying too much on those conventions, or do we need, just like you suggested, the local laws? What is the inadequacy of our current legal frameworks, and how can we shore them up?
Well, there's no perfect law. I'm of the school of thought that often if you're very ingenious, you may be able to find a solution in one of the laws or regulations to deal with the challenges that you have, even without any change in law. So Nigeria is party to the most important treaties. You mentioned a couple of them. The Nigerian law, at least the monuments law, incorporates some of the principles in those treaties. But the questions, and so that's why the monuments, the Museum and Monuments Commission need to play a role when all these discussions are on, and they did play a role at that time, like I mentioned to you. Now, the question will be, what role should the relevant people, let's say the Oni of Ife, I don't know which part of the East exactly artifacts that were taken from, so that is it the Oba, I mean the king of that region, the region where the Nok culture artifacts were taken from. And so, but we need to, as a people, because the Constitution is supposed to be an instrument that we all agree on, to say, what do we think is best? So I think we need to have meetings on this. Should they be in the regions where they were taken from originally, because they will help tell the story, and then people can then travel to those places and say, I'm going to see the artifacts of these people, because they're all different. They have characteristics that help people to know that this is from this. For instance, Aberdeen had a couple of University of Aberdeen, that is a couple of artifacts, and they then did some study that suggested that one particular one is from the Oba's palace in Benin. The other one they couldn't say for certainty that it was from the Oba's palace. So they returned only the one that there was certainty about. So how do we identify what belongs to or any region? Then if it comes to the region, what do they do with it? Can they say, all right, just like the President Tinubu is visiting the Queen today, if somebody is visiting the Oba of Benin or the Oni of Ife, can he say, I gift this to you? Or on the occasion that he's getting married, just say, I give it to my wife's family. Should it be reciprocity or for on behalf of all the people, or just for themselves and their family? So that particularly because these things have become so of such economic value today, that, I mean, you can imagine anybody, if just one artifact is worth £1 million, he can give it, he can also sell, and that can solve a number of problems. And so should they be able to give as gifts? Should they be able to sell? Those are things which we need to sit and decide. I have some ideas, but I mean, it's not for me. It's for all of us to put our heads together. Because if I say, oh, the Benin man, Benin Oba cannot sell, Benin people will probably say I'm in breach because I don't know Benin culture. The Oba cannot do any wrong. So, I mean, it's for us to sit, and then we have laws and regulations that will then guide us. Then, who hosts? Yes, Oba's palace, but is it safe in the Oba's palace? Possibly. Will they last there in terms of can it be well preserved? Because the way the museums are today internationally, I mean, with air conditioning and so on, that may not be possible in some palaces. 24 hours air conditioning, and that's why the people that raised the $100 million for the Benin was supposed to be called West African Museum of this and that. Maybe we need to engage them and say, look, this is something good, but these are the areas the Oba is not happy about. These are the areas the governor or the president is not happy about, or the people. How do we benefit rather than losing all that money that could have been gifted to and would have made a museum that would be a world-class museum in Benin or any other place where we want to. So these are discussions. These are things which, even our universities, there are things which could be subject matter of PhD thesis, of conference and seminars, but not just as talk shop. Because I told the people, you said something which was, I smiled at that. When it was time for them to return the two universities, to be fair on them, they invited me. But I did all the work pro bono. I was back in Nigeria, and I felt that now I'm going to come and travel just for photo opportunity. I don't take photographs. So just come and take photographs with this person so that you show that. But if the team that came said, oh, Bankole, come along, possibly I would have, and so who is going to pay for the time of those people who will lobby, draft the laws, who will be pressing, who will coordinate with the Chimamandas, and to say we have a voice, and until we get what we want, we will not keep quiet. No government wants that kind of pressure, and I'm sure we can do it.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so very much, sir. In fact, I was already saying that I'm willing to volunteer to join your team in that regard.
Even if they are not paying you, I don't believe you.
Well, actually, on the subject of payment, I've actually done a little bit of pro bono in that regard as well. And that takes me to my next question. Recently, I was fortunate to be amongst a number of professionals that was brought together by the Federal Ministry of Art and Culture and Tourism and the Creative Economy to work on the cultural policy. Now, the cultural policy of Nigeria was, I think, last passed in 1988, over 30 years, if I'm not mistaken. And a lot has been going on in the background now to reform it. So, in the light of all that you have shared, sir, what would you like to see in the cultural policy going forward?
Well, what exactly is culture in terms of like let's look at the artifacts, for instance. Somebody does a sculpture today that is like the Festac mask. Is that what kind of rights should there be a limitation to copying that? Should it be only done with permission? What if somebody does a mask that is not like, not the idea Festac mask, but it depicts our culture so well? When would we classify it as, okay, this is artifact and it cannot be sold, or it can be sold, then what do we do to, because the technology that we had then, like I said, surpassed some European countries, but we've lost it. So what do we do to revive that? You'll be amazed the amount of technology. Part of my research in my PhD in the early 90s was looking at what I called in the way which we protected rights in intangible things. Because a judge accused me, said, look, you are part of the people that drafted the copyright law in 1988. God will not, history will not forgive you. We don't need intellectual property in Nigeria. And so in my thesis, I had to look at whether before we met colonialists, whether we had intellectual property rights or things akin to them. And so that was part of the thing I pushed out, which eventually became what is called traditional knowledge. At that time, that word was not there, and now there's a treaty dealing with part of that. So what I'd like to see, it will be how we can push and transform these things beyond talk. So people can make a decent livelihood, just like we never did much to promote football, but people, football is a big thing in Nigeria. The government didn't do much to promote the creatives, and today music, film is telling our stories. What can the government do to ensure that the creatives and things to do with culture will actually be promoted, so that the bank boys, the finance people begin to understand the language and speak the language, so that the people who are in the creative sector too are able to speak the language of the finance people. And we stop looking at, traditionally, they say, the Yoruba say, "Amalagbe," or something like that. You are a singer, you are just a palace clown. You don't have work. It's work, it's work. Those people had significance. They may not have had money, but you cannot do the burial or so and so event without calling the people that will come and do your ewi, the poetry of your family, your lineage. And when they are saying it, your hair will rise, good bumps.
Yeah.
So these are things which we need to look at to see, particularly for some of us who say, because of our faith, we think everything cultural is evil. There may be some things which I myself will not want to get close to, but I'm sure there are many things that is so good about our culture, and faith does not eschew such.
Thank you so very much, sir. As you were sharing, there's something that came to my mind. So one of the areas of law that I practice is art law. And the gap in the art industry is one that it seems to have been filled in the music and the film industry. Right. Our music is everywhere. Just like you said, sir. The Burna Boys, the Davidos, the Wizkids, the Ashakers, they're everywhere. Even Nollywood is everywhere now. And I've always been concerned about the art industry. And one of the major problems, though, is because of valuation. How do you value art? Right? There are a couple of companies and organizations and private individuals, both local and international, that are trying to build concepts around how to value art. But from your thoughts, sir, why do you think the art industry particularly is lacking behind of all the three?
I think it's going to have its time.
Mm.
Art today is not what it was some 15, 20 years ago. It's a little better, and it's going to get better. With art, you probably even need money. Somebody who buys a CD or downloads a CD or watches a film doesn't spend much. Somebody who deals with art must be a big boy, and it's probably because you're a big boy that you're dealing with art. So if it was possible for you have a masterpiece, the original, of course, is costs so and so, but cheap versions of it, which is authorized between the artist, the museum curator, the person who buys the original, and the public can then say, let's also feel good, and we buy a copy, a cheap copy, but which money goes to the art community, including the author, artist, and so on. Those are maybe some of the things we need to look at. And so the position of lawyers would be, I mean, because I don't believe when people say there are too many lawyers being produced, not because I'm a teacher and we are producing a lot, but that we, as MBA, for instance, we need to engage. How can we make ourselves more relevant? We are mentioning music, but I know that some of our musicians who passed in the last 5-10 years, their financial situation was very poor. Not because they mismanaged their fortunes, but because they were not really making money. The people who make money, we talk about today, are often those who go for the concerts and shows and endorsements. So there are things which we need to look at and ensure we deal with so that lawyers can earn. I mean, Mofe Damijo is a lawyer today. I think he read theater arts or something, and he was transformed financially. But how many lawyers have made money from Nollywood, for instance? You know, these are things which we need to be looking at. And I tell my students, your generation, because there are many enthusiasts, like you are saying art law. I mean, some people say fashion law. Hey, so that people will not be hungry. How can we ensure that the regulations are there, the laws are there, so that we can earn and they can also respect us and seek our counsel in all this? Sometimes it's a developmental thing. It takes a while. I think art will have its time. What could happen is if we could engineer, law is an instrument of social engineer. So if we could engineer some events, then you find out that the respect, the kind of monies that are coming will just grow. But sometimes it is events that occur that then make a difference to these sectors we just mentioned.
Wow, thank you so very much, sir. I already have ideas running through my head in the engineering sphere that you just described. Thank you so very much. This has been quite enlightening for me. Before we go, sir, there are two issues that I'd just like us to touch on. Because our time, I think we're close to an hour now. There's two issues. But before I ask those questions, I'd just like to tell our participants and our listeners, please, if you have a question, you have a comment, you have a contribution, kindly put them in the chat box and we'll be sure to get to them before the end of the session. Thank you so very much. So, sir, while we're discussing, you mentioned the proposal by the British Museum to digitalize some of our collections with them. And I use the word our collections because, yes, they belong to us. So our collections to them. Is that acceptable? Because I remember you shared that your opinion was that, look, you should not determine what to do with our property. Let us be the one to determine that. But in this digital age, especially with the rise of the internet, with the rise of AI, with the rise of so many online tools that can help to digitize this history and this cultural heritage. Do you think we should consider it?
Well, I mean, technology has its good parts. If we have a museum of international standard in Benin and the artifacts are returned there, some of us can go to Benin. But some people may not be able to leave some other parts of the 6 or so geopolitical parts of Nigeria zones to go all the way to Benin, and maybe they can then see Akuko or this or that, the Festac mask, in their own museum, which is just produced digitally. And so the same history can be told to Nigerians in other parts of Nigeria or other parts of Africa, or for other Africans through digitalization. The question will be, what can be digitalized? Who has the right to digitalize? What are the limitations or exceptions to the right to digitalize? Because if I digitalize, I keep in the museum. I could also digitalize and sell. It may not be a bad idea, totally, that people should be able to buy. But if people are buying, who gets the money? So that it won't be the case of people singing, "Oh, mommy, everybody dancing, and they remember Christian. But how much money did Christian have when she was dying? Why should people say Henry Wosu is dying, or X has just died as a footballer, as a star, and people are now trying to raise money for the person? Why could there not be better framework in terms of organizations, in terms of regulations, that would ensure that these people do not suffer? Those are things which I think we need to think about. And it's easier, to think if there's money. So, for instance, somebody's doing a PhD in it and is spending three years just thinking about it and running up and down. I mean, my encounter with the Inenugun of Igun, I was starting my PhD in London in 91, came home to Nigeria, went to Igun Street and went all over asking questions. So those are the things which we need to do, so that life will be better for our children and for our future, because cultural property is important, and we need to be able to, for instance, during this US-Iraq war, or is it Iran, sorry, it's rumored that some cultural properties have been destroyed. We should cry against it. That, look, if you go to war internationally now, you must not hit those kind of places. So that what they did in Benin expedition under today's law is wrong, and
Wrong.
because it's wrong in international law, have we considered whether, even if we're not going to win, threatening them with a case on this, that you must return this, and you're in breach of this? Who in government is pushing that? And who is pressing the right person in the government to push it? Because don't think Trump may be pushing something, some head of state may be pushing them because they have zeal, but somebody must also be pushing them. So we need the government people who push. We need the people who are the stakeholders, who will be pushing the government people, and we need funding so that people will not get tired whilst they are lobbying.
Thank you so very much, sir. Thank you. In fact, I feel everything we've discussed already can be put together in a book as a way forward. So what you shared is really spot on and really impactful. I want to once again, because we are rounding up now, I want to ask our participants, our listeners, if you have any question or comment, please put it in the chat box so we can attend to it right before the end of the session. So, sir, this is my final question. What is the way forward? I know you shared some of these tips already, but in a nutshell, so that every participant here knows what to go away with. If they've missed everything we've said, which I'm sure they haven't because I've been glued to my screen since you've been speaking, what do you want them to remember as the way forward? Not just for them, but for stakeholders, for government, and for cultural experts and creatives as well.
Our cultural heritage is our life. is our history.
Mm.
Without those cultural properties, something is missing in our history and therefore in our life. Because if they are there, they are going to inspire further civilization. And so it is our collective responsibility to push for the ones that have been stolen to be returned, and then to develop further things that we have and preserve them so that the Chinese people will stop selling adire to us. Or if they are going to sell, they should pay, so that various aspects of our culture, which will make our children, I mean, go to a party in America, in Europe. Those are kids that don't speak our language.
Mm.
They dance to those songs better than people in Nigeria, and they are proud of being Nigerians. Other Africans see that leadership and they align as big brother. So these things are very important, and is part of the emancipation of Nigeria. I'll stop there. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so very much. Thank you so very much. I wish we were in a physical room. I'll have asked everybody to give a resounding clap, for the excellent presentation. Thank you so very much. I have learned a lot, and I'm sure many of us feel the same. In fact, I can see some of the comments I can see some of the comments in the comment box here, and a lot of people are appreciating you for a wonderful presentation. I can see a question from Laura. It says, seeing that we have a very poor maintenance culture, how do we maintain these returned artifacts?
Yeah, I think I alluded to that. I mean, that's the reason why $100 million was raised by a group of people connected with the with the Edo government, to house these things when they are returned. And a number of people internationally, architects and so on, were excited, governments, to be involved. But we got it wrong because we did not carry the Oba's palace along. Now, some of them will say it's wrong. No, the Oba's son was involved. This is, and I said to them, look, you cannot put yourself in the shoes of the Oba. Property from your father, which is now worth so and so, they want to return it, and some people are raising money to keep this property, and nothing is coming to you. I mean, I don't think it makes sense. And I said, what we need to do is to be ingenious and create something. Is it gate takings? Is it this? Is it that? So that there will be buying, of the people, of the Oba, and so on. So to Laura's question, certainly we do not have the facilities. We can build a building and keep artifacts there, but if you don't have preservatories, the thing will just fall apart. Okay, so in order to build a sustainable structure, we just need to go out to raise the money. And there's some people who will be so excited, who will be so happy to join hands with the various, whether Nok people, Ife people, the Bini people, and give money towards doing such a thing. And then it must be done in a way that maybe through gate takings and so on, we can also preserve. I mean, money will be coming in to ensure that the place is maintained, because building a big edifice is one thing, like the National Theatre. It fell apart, if not for the people that just brought money. So we need to have a sustainable thing. And it's for all of us to put our heads together. That's why we are lawyers.
Thank you so very much, sir. Shortly, I will be inviting the chair of the Media and Entertainment Subcommittee of the NBA SLP to kindly share a word. But before I do that, I can see a comment, sir, from AGK, and this person is talking about hoping to connect with you, sir, particularly on a topic of interest to him, which is traditional knowledge as an IP field. I think this is also relatively new to a lot of people, and I remember that you touched on it during our discussions. Is there anything you would like to add in that regard, sir?
I mean, there are many universities teaching intellectual property today at undergraduate level, and a few at postgraduate. In Babcock, we do it up to PhD. And there are people who are doing their PhDs in traditional knowledge. I mean, the knowledge that is passed from generation to generation, which may not have been documented. And then a woman comes and says, oh, you know, you have this chewing stick that our forefathers or people still use. I mean, I've had cause to use it years ago, and they have healing effects.
Yes.
Now, a woman comes and sees that. He goes, just like he does to our crude oil, to our cocoa, extract something out of it, and then start selling to us. What the new, the treaty that I mentioned, which was just signed last year, says that for patents, if you get an invention based on such things, you must, first of all, acknowledge the source. Then you must also pay, have a formula, benefit sharing with the source. Now, our laws must change to back this up, this treaty. Our laws have not changed. In fact, the treaty cannot come into force until enough countries sign on to it. And how many countries have signed on to it? So there must be a movement. And that's why I said a lot of these things require money and push. So over to you who question, you can push and make a name for pushing and make money too.
I certainly like the making of new part. And yes, I do intend to push. I do intend to push because it's a subject that I'm very passionate about. A comment just came in from the chair of the Media and Entertainment Subcommittee, and I would like to just read it out and also invite her to speak. So my thesis is on intangible cultural heritage and traditional knowledge. So this session was very enlightening. Thank you so much. And in that regard, I would like to invite you to speak. So I am the vice chair of the Media and Entertainment Subcommittee, but my chair, my sister Rita, is here. So I'd like to invite you to say something if it's convenient for you. Before I round up and hand over to the administrator. I want to believe there are no more questions, as I cannot see any on the chat box.
I want to believe so too. Just give me a second. Okay. So, good afternoon, everyone, and I want to say a big thank you to to Professor Shodipo for sharing his wealth of knowledge and expertise with us today. When the topic came up and Prof's name was mentioned in the committee, there was no, everybody just gave a nod saying that he was the best person for the topic. And I'm glad that he Despite his busy schedule, he was able to still spend the last 1 hour with us today. To our participants, I want to say thank you for joining today's session. I hope that you found it very enlightening and insightful like I did. And to the committee chair and Ms. Dami, who has always encouraged us with our webinar sessions, I want to say big thank you. And to my vice chair, I was going to say Mr. Adejumade, but I remember that you cautioned me and said we are bros. So to my bro, thank you so much for moderating this session very well, and also bringing your wealth of expertise. I mean, the topic is, with what is currently happening generally, and also within Nigeria, from the MOA case to the recent Benin bronzes that were returned, I think this conversation was timely. I think next time we'll have this conversation, we'll have to bring in like the museum and the monument agency to give us more diverse. Yeah. Yes, but thank you very much, Prof. Once again, and have a good afternoon, everyone. Cheers.
All right. Thank you so very much. I can see someone also saying they are writing their dissertation on TK. So I'm just going to round up now and hand over to the administrator. As we bring the session to a close, I want to say thank you to Professor Shodipo. Your insight has been very rich. Thank you so much. I know this was a very busy time for you, but you scheduled time to come and share with us. And I'm sure many of your students are here and they know that that is just classic prof. Thank you so much for continuing to share your wealth of knowledge with us. For our participants, we have explored not just the legal dimensions of cultural heritage and repatriation, but we've also highlighted deeper questions, such as ownership, identity, responsibility. And it is clear that while a lot of progress has been made so far, there is still significant work to be done, especially as Prof has explained. Everybody has a role to play, from our creatives to our lawyers, to government, to other stakeholders, and also members of the community as well. I am hoping that many of us will continue to drive this conversation and continue to strengthen the narratives and institutions that refine or redefine how we value our cultural assets. I want to say thank you again to the audience. Thank you so much to the NDBA SLP for allowing us the opportunity to continue to enlighten ourselves and our colleagues on various topics. I urge everyone, if this is the first time you have participated in any of our trainings, please look forward to many others. It's a weekly training on various topics and various areas of law that I'm sure will be of interest to you. So thank you so very much. I hand over to the administrator now. Thank you.
Thank you once again. Thank you so much, Prof. Thank you so much. Really appreciate the insight you brought to the conversation. I mean, there's been concerns, the issue of repatriation, it's an ongoing concern. And I like where you said something about the fact that the things that are being lost, it's not about the money, it's about these people who were custodians of this cultural knowledge. The value that we are losing, and it should burden our hearts. It should be a thing of concern. That gradually is almost as if not just our language is being eroded, even our way of life, the way we see things, the things that used to be, I mean, these days you find, it's almost rare in Yoruba land to find people giving oriki to children anymore. You almost don't have kids who have oriki anymore. And people who don't understand in Yoruba language, oriki is like a way of eulogizing you. It traces your ancestry. Every family has one, everybody has one. That's becoming almost a thing of the past that you don't hear anymore. And we're asking, is anybody documenting that? Is there a record of, popular orikis that used to exist and things like that? Thank you so much. And for participants, if you would like to catch a replay of this section, you can check the MBSLP YouTube channel. The session is being streamed live on YouTube, so you can always go back there to check it. We do this every Thursday. Well, thank you for taking part of your public holiday to spend with us. We know today was a public holiday. And thank you, Prof. I understand you had a very busy schedule, but you still made time. And you did not just show up, you showed up with a lot of value. And for those who'd like to connect with Prof, I'm sure you can find him on LinkedIn. And yes, you can connect with him from there. And yes, for everybody who is here, for our moderator, Mr. Nibokun, thank you so much for the good work. Thank you, Rita, for the work your committee is doing, your subcommittee does in bringing up this topic. I mean, I'm only here to just support, but you guys you're the brain behind all this. You're the one who come up with all these topics and provide the speakers. And we've always had a really good time with your sessions. So we're hoping you make it's a date with us again next Thursday, when another of our subcommittee we'll be having another webinar session. And lastly, before we close, the registration for the 2026 MBA Section on Legal Practice Conference is still ongoing. And like the section chair announced earlier when she was on the call, the conference is taking place from 7th to 10th of April in Lagos, in the iconic National Theatre. You don't want to miss it. There will be hats. There will be a screening of the movie Ransom Kuti. So, I mean, a lot is packed. The conference is packed. Registration is still on. You can still register, and we look forward to seeing you in Lagos. For those who may have questions about anything relating to your CPD, the details for your CPD have already been collected at the point of registration, so you may not, we don't need any further information from you. Until next week, when we hope to come your way again with another very interesting section event from the MBA Section on Legal Practice, Technology, Media, and Telecommunications Committee. My name is Damola Victoria Alabi, and on behalf of the chairman of the committee, Fernandez Marcos Obiena, who is unavoidably absent, I'm the secretary of the committee, and I'm glad you're here. Thank you, and enjoy the rest of your public holiday. Eid Mubarak to our Muslim colleagues in advance. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.